The Tao of Self-Confidence, Episode 10. Welcome to the Tao of Self-Confidence, where I share stories of courageous women finding their inner journey to self-confidence 5 days a week. Want to learn how you can change your inner beliefs and attitudes? Download a free copy of the ebook by visiting thetaoofselfconfidence.com. Welcome to the Tao of Self-Confidence, where I share stories of amazing women who have discovered their inner journey to self-confidence. I'm your host, Sheena Yap Chan, and today's guest, I wanted to introduce you to this awesome lady. I met her in one of our podcasters group, and I like to find women who like to step out of their comfort zone and do things that are not typical, right? And especially women of Asian descent, right? Because most of the time we're told to just go to school, get a job, and get married and never rock the boat, right? So to be able to have a successful podcast show, is very rare, right? Especially with an Asian woman. I mean, I've even searched through different groups, different shows, and there's not even that many shows that's done by an Asian woman. So I was really, really excited to introduce this guest. Her name is Dr. Anh Nguyen. So she has her own show, which is called the Food and Medicine Podcast with Dr. Anh, and I'm going to give the mic to her to talk about her show and a little bit about what she does. So, Anne, thank you for coming to the interview. How are you today? And if you can just if you can, give the listeners a little bit about yourself and what you do, that would be great.
Sure. Hey, Sheena, and it's a pleasure to speak with you. I've been kind of checking out your website, and I love all the information that you're sharing. So I think you're doing an awesome job of, putting yourself out there and creating great content and really creating value in the world. So I appreciate what you're doing, and I thank you for the opportunity to be on the show.
Oh, no, I'm really more thankful that you came on to be a guest. So.
Well, so thank you for that. It's a pleasure, as I mentioned, and my background is a pharmacist. So, growing up with Asian parents, the expectation was definitely, do something medical. And so I wanted to be a pediatrician, but I wanted to have a family. I wanted to have a life. And after doing some research and shadowing a pharmacist, I was like, okay, I think that's a good middle ground. I'm still in the medical profession, and I still make decent money for myself. It's something my parents can still brag about, right? And so that's what I did for a little bit, until I realized I wasn't very happy. I realized within a year or so that I was doing something. I thought I was going to give people medicine and they were going to get better, and they didn't get better, and they got worse. And it just didn't sit very well with me. Every year giving more medications to people and just watching their health decline. So I wanted to find something that really made me happy, and that I could live with myself with. And actually my job, we started doing health coaching for basically employees of small companies. They wanted to save money on health insurance, and they wanted for these employees to meet with a health coach so they could lose some weight, start eating better, start exercising, and from the pharmacist perspective, help reduce some of their medication, so then there would be less medical costs. I really enjoyed that, and I said, okay, this is what I want to do. And from then on, I just kind of started researching, how can I make this a business for myself? I've always wanted to be, a business owner. I always wanted to work for myself. And I don't think that's typical of a lot of Asian women, but that's something I was just born with. I remember with my mom, we would have our little snack stand where we would sell cassava snacks to the kids going to school in Vietnam. And so from a very young age, she told me I was 2 at the time. I was helping my mom sell snacks. And so from a very young age, I was very entrepreneurial. And I think that's carried over in my adult life. And so now I help people use food as medicine to come off of their medication safely and create a foundation of health, so that they can live longer and more vibrantly and play with their kids and do what they want in this world, using food and nutrition as a solid foundation for their health.
That is amazing. I've always believed as well, just living the healthy lifestyle, just eating clean and just eating the right foods is really the cure to most diseases. That's always been something that I believed in, right? When we lessen all the medication and stuff, because some people don't realize that it's just a temporary cure. It's not permanent, right? And the more you use it, you get dependent on it. So that's just my point of view when it comes to like medicine and the pharmacy industry. So I'm really glad that you are educating people to eat properly to lessen down all the diseases and stuff, because I live in Canada, so health insurance is like not something we're known for. We do because we have free healthcare here, so it's not a big issue like in America, right? I mean, I know people talk about it all the time. And, you know, when people just learn how to eat properly, they can lessen all that cost down, right? They don't see the long-term value. They just see the short-term stuff. So you mentioned you're from Vietnam. So I just want to know more about your cultural background.
Sure. Do you want more of, you know, how I was raised growing up, or, you know, what are you looking for specifically?
Just where you're from originally.
Yeah, so I was born in My Tho, Vietnam, which is in the river delta, and I grew up, I was there for about 6 years, and then my dad was in the Vietnam War, so we came over to the States, and we were part of the humanitarian operation. So his family had been separated during the war, and my uncle was in the States and in New Jersey. So during the humanitarian operation, they allowed families that were separated to reunite. And so we were able to reunite with my uncle in New Jersey, and that's where I grew up most of my life in the States. Went to college there, and then kind of made some moves after I graduated and landed a career. So
that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. So I just wanted to ask you a couple of questions. What's your favorite self-confident quote?
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. I was scrolling Facebook, I think either today or yesterday, and I came up with a quote and I was like, this is perfect. So it says that confidence is not thinking they will like me. Confidence is I'll be fine if they don't.
I love that, because so many times we care too much of what other people think of us, and sometimes we just got to learn to love ourselves and be okay with who we are, because in reality we can't please everybody. I mean, it's impossible. So I really do love that quote. And what would be your definition of self-confidence?
Yeah, you know, it's kind of what you were just saying, Sheena. It's, you know, I think as Asian women, we are taught to be submissive, right? And to think of other people's needs before our own. And I really had to unlearn that as an adult. And, you know, being comfortable in my own skin, I think that is my best definition of self-confidence. And I kind of went on a journey where I put myself through a bodybuilding training program, because I wanted to be on stage in a competition, because I said, okay, you know, I really need to get out of this funk of not being comfortable in my own skin physically, but also emotionally. Right? And so I was like, okay, what's the best way to do that? I was like, okay, well, I'm going to get on in a skimpy bikini on stage, and that will like make me super self-confident, right? Well, that was quite a process, and it definitely taught me a lot of things, including confidence, but also discipline, etc. And I really think that, you know, being physically comfortable in your own skin is very important for confidence, but also just loving who you are as a person, right? And understanding that not everyone will like you, and that's okay, right? And because once you find out who you are and what you believe in and what you stand for, there's going to be people who disagree with those things, and that's okay too. And being able to stand firm in your beliefs, and loving yourself regardless of what other people think, and just following what makes you happy. I think that's what I've come to terms with is, you know, my path of online entrepreneurship and doing the podcast, and I just literally quit my job on Friday, so not even a week ago. So that is like a very non-traditional path, where a lot of my colleagues looked at me and said, you're crazy, you know, and I'm like, yes, I am crazy, but I am crazy because I want to follow my dreams and do what I want to do and live the life I want to live. And if that doesn't fit into your definition of normal, then that's okay, because my happiness is the number one importance for me, and I am confident in my own abilities and being able to achieve those things. So having all of that personal growth has helped me, you know, move past all the negativity or all the lack of understanding from people in my current circles, and reaching out to people in the online communities who might not be locally next to me, like in Milwaukee, but who can support me on my journey, and knowing that these are the people I need to associate with. So having that confidence to choose my own friends too. So knowing, okay, maybe my friends here are the friends I socialize with, but they're not the friends that I want to listen to in terms of business advice or career advice, or what I want to do, what I should be doing to achieve my dreams. Does that make sense?
Totally. I mean, first of all, congratulations for quitting your job. Like, that's a, a success on its own. And I know where you've been, right? Because my parents were the same. They're like, are you crazy? You're already a success. What are you doing to yourself? But for me, being in a cubicle just wasn't for me, right? And I'm sure you feel the same way, right? It's just, you felt trapped.
It was soul sucking. It sucked the soul out of me.
Yeah, exactly, right? And
Yes.
there's people out there who just look at you and they're like, you're nuts, right? You're crazy. And I'm like, yeah, I'm crazy because like you said, I don't want to be normal, right? And to be honest, what is the definition of normal? Like nobody, who gave that definition of what normal really is, right? I mean, I believe we're all here for a reason. We're born for a reason to do great things in life. And some of us are going out there to do it. And some of us are inspiring others to go out there and do it. So, I'm really happy for you that you did just recently quit your job and you're following your path. I mean, you have a successful podcast helping people out, teaching them how to eat right. And that's a success on its own. So I'm really happy for you. And I hope listeners out there, they're just cheering you on as well. So
Thanks.
So I wanted to know, what was your life like before you had your discovery of self-confidence? Like, what was your life before that?
Yeah, I would say before I started going on my bodybuilding journey, it was definitely, I would look at pictures of myself and it's funny, I reflect on those same pictures now. I'm like, oh, I looked great at that time. But every time I saw a picture of myself, I was like, oh, I'm too chubby, and there was always something wrong with the picture. And I just wasn't happy with myself. And I was that person where, I would walk into a room and I was like, oh, I hope I could make a lot of friends, right? I always wanted to have lots of friends. And I do have lots of friends. But what I realized is, it's not really about the number of friends. It's like the quality of the friends that I have, right? The people who the saying says, like, you can call up at 4 a.m. if you need something and they'll be there for you kind of thing. And, I reflected upon that. I'm like, how many people of those caliber do I actually have in my life? And who do I want those people to be, right? So the lack of self-confidence in my own personal body, but also in just myself walking into a room and just that saying, like, I hope they like me. Well, now it's not that way anymore. And so that's how it was. And also the other thing was just hoping that what I do will get approval from my parents. I think that was the other big thing, right? I think that's what a lot of Asians struggle with, and Asian women too. And I'm lucky that my mom's kind of I call her a renegade, right? She's a Renaissance woman, and she's always been the type of person who sometimes, while she doesn't understand why I'm doing something, and she pushes back, and I have to push back as well. Eventually, she'll be like, okay, I trust that what you're doing is going to be good for you. I trust that I raised you to make smart decisions, and I've seen you push back and upon, against my wishes, and things turned out well. So now, I have a relationship with my parents where they might not understand what I'm doing, but they believe that the choices I make are well thought out choices, and they trust that I know what I'm doing. So I used to be, when I wasn't self-confident, I would worry about what they thought about me. And now it's kind of the reverse. It's like they just trust that what I'm doing is going to be fine, So that's kind of what life was like before I was self-confident.
I love that, because it's true, right? We always want to seek approval, whether it's our parents or just even our inner circle. And sometimes we just got to take the necessary actions to prove to them that we're doing something that's way beyond, just being in a cubicle, right? Or way beyond just following the path of that we're told to do. So I'm glad that your parents were able. Now you and your parents have a better relationship over that. I mean, it was the same, right? It's like I can relate, because I had the same things, right? My parents didn't understand. Now they've backed off a little. They trust me. I mean, they migrated here for a reason. They want a better opportunity for the kids, right? And sometimes their perception of opportunity is different from maybe me and you, right? Because we want to be entrepreneurs. We want to go out there and help, women be able to do the same thing and show them what's possible. So I really love that, you were able to overcome that and just keep showing them that you can do it. And so what was like the aha moment when you realized that, you can do anything that you wanted, that you were able to, just go out there and get it done?
That's an interesting question. And I might get some people think, she's really crazy for telling this. But so I never used to be the type of person who would believe in psychics, right? But so last year, my coworkers and I were all Libras. We all have birthdays in October, and we happened to have a meeting in Madison, Wisconsin. And my one coworker, Erica, is really into psychics, and she's like, let's all get a reading for our birthday. And I was like, okay, So this person we went and got a reading from, her name is Brenda. And Brenda, her specialty is bringing guides from and spirits, basically people who've passed on from this life, and bringing them to us and having them share messages that we need to hear rather than what we want to hear. And I remember before this meeting with Brenda, I was thinking, of all the people I would love to talk to and meet, have a chance to have a conversation with, I'd love to talk to my maternal grandmother. She had passed when my mom was 23 years old. My mom hadn't been married at the time, so I never met my grandmother, my maternal grandmother. And I had heard such wonderful stories about how, what a brilliant woman she was. She was a strong woman who, just took care of her family. And although she didn't have an education, a lot of people respected her. So I always wanted to communicate with her. Well, anyway, the only thing Brenda knew about me was my name, Anne. And she told me all these things that I was like, whoa, how did you know this? Right? So she told me, she's like, you're a pharmacist, right? She's like, yeah. I'm like, yeah. She's like, you're not happy doing what you're doing. And you're meant to be a healer, right? And you're meant to use natural medicine. So I was like, wow, this is crazy. And basically, she told me that I have a very strong connection with my grandmother. My grandmother was right there, and she was kind of passing along the messages from grandmother. And she said that, I have the Midas touch, basically. Anything I ever set my mind to, I always succeeded at. I always accomplished. And, I'm just she said, right now, at this point in your life, you're just like afraid to jump. But when you do, you're going to be successful. And she's like, grandma's here to help you. And she's like, you've got your friends and your family here to help you as well. And that was the vote of confidence that I really needed to be like, okay, if I don't do it now, I'm going to regret it. And there's these other outside forces, which I've always felt in my life through various times in my life that were present. And so there were so many people who were cheering me on and who had faith in me. And I was like, okay, that was like the vote of confidence I needed to just move forward with the podcast and move forward with building the online business and chasing my dreams.
I like that story. I mean, sometimes success leaves you clues, and it'll leave it in the most weirdest places ever. Right? I mean, you will hear stories like this all the time. And, I've heard stories like that too, because, coming from like an Asian family, we go to Chinese fortune tellers, and they always have these little cryptic messages that you have to like try and figure out what is this supposed to mean, right? So for me, I don't think your story was crazy at all. I think it's interesting. I think it's awesome. I think it was a sign from your grandmother or God or the universe, whoever you believe in, that you were meant to be a success, right? You were meant to do greater things in life, and this podcast, your podcast is a great sign, right? So I think that was a great story that you just shared. And so what's your life now after discovering that, right after that incident with the fortune teller?
Well, I still have conversations with Brenda every so often when I feel like I'm a little stuck and I need clarity as to my next step. But I've become, more open to receiving messages, and I, just take it one step at a time. And I launched the podcast, and immediately day one, it was new and noteworthy. First week it hit number one in Science and Medicine. I don't remember, but like within 2 weeks, I don't even know. It hit number one in every category that was listed. And it's just kind of skyrocketed from then. And I just was blown away. Like, I just didn't even know what to expect with the podcast. And I was just like, wow, I can't believe how people have taken to the message. And so it feels really gratifying to know that what I'm sharing with people is what people need right now. And so the podcast has done really well. And I'm starting to look at sponsors for the show. I am looking to listen to the audience and see what are they struggling with, so that I can, provide support in terms of programs and services. I'm looking to provide like a guided detox as well as one-on-one coaching with people for those who need extra guidance to overcome their health challenges. And I'm looking at partnerships with other people, working with other people in the online health space to have a broader reach and do online summits. And the sky's the limit. And actually, I'm looking to, within the next 4 months before the end of the year, to completely go online and go back to Vietnam, go to Southeast Asia, and immerse myself in Eastern medicine, and to build, to continue learning and becoming this amazing healer, that helps people, really treat the root cause of their problem rather than putting a medication and putting a Band-Aid on their problem. So I really want to be a student of my craft and continue to master my craft. And so that's kind of what I've got planned for the next coming months.
I love it. I mean, so many things happening for you. I'm so happy for your podcast that it went new and noteworthy on this first week, right? That's amazing. And, it's just, I love seeing women just succeeding and just doing whatever it takes to just follow their dreams, follow what they're meant to do. And, when I believe if one person can do it, it's possible for anyone out there, especially if you're listening to this, it's possible, right? You see, Anne, she didn't come from anywhere special, right? Like she had a dream, she took action on it, and she just never gave up, right? And sometimes you just got to do it. You just got to overcome the obstacles and just go for what you believe in. I just have, I think, a couple more questions. If a woman's listening to this, what kind of self-confidence advice would you give her in like her own journey of self-confidence?
Yeah, that's a great question. I guess it goes back to my turning point. And one of the turning points was the bodybuilding competition, but the other one was I went on a women's retreat with a company called Vividly Women. I'm not sure if they do it anymore, but, looking for those types of retreats where, and the funny thing is I had purchased, the program for like 3 years, and I never quite felt like I was ready to take this program. Like I didn't earn it yet. I didn't, it was a vacation in Mexico, and it was a chance to really just indulge in myself and love myself and care for myself. I never quite felt like I had deserved it yet. Funny, right? Of course, being a woman, like it's like, there's still another goal I need to reach before I can give myself this prize. And basically, Leela, who puts on this event, was like, Anne, if you don't come to this event, you will forfeit the money that you've paid. It's been 3 years. I was like, okay, I'm coming. So, and this was the most amazing thing is to, spending time with all these amazing women who are also looking to, indulge in themselves and care for themselves and love themselves, and being in this environment was really amazing. So if you can, finding a retreat like that, or even just taking a weekend for yourself, and really just learning to love yourself. And for me, it was simple things like, buying myself flowers every week, and giving myself massages and getting myself pedicures and all those little things to show that I care for me. Because once I engaged in those acts of self-love, then I started feeling that self-love for myself. And then from that self-love, I developed self-confidence, right? So even if you can't go on a women's retreat, if you're doing those things, like even if, say, like you really enjoy a nice bubble bath, or you really enjoy a movie with your girlfriends, whatever that is, and scheduling it in the calendar and knowing that it's a non-negotiable event, that it's just like taking care of your kids, or it's just like an appointment for work, or something you would do for your husband or for your family. It's a non-negotiable calendar appointment, and you do it on a regular basis. And so that those acts of self-love and self-care have really helped me find my self-confidence and reinforce it too. Because you can't just do it once and be like, oh, I got a massage 3 months ago and I'm awesome. Like it doesn't carry over that long, right? So you have to continually do it. So I think that's what has helped me the most. In addition to just kind of that journey of self-discovery with the bodybuilding competition.
That's awesome. I like that, having little dates with yourself. If someone wanted to search for your podcast or your website, where could they reach you?
Yeah, the easiest place is dranh.com, and Ann is spelled A-N-H as in healthy. So it's dranh.com. And on my website, I actually have a free guide. So it was the top 10 things I learned when I was bodybuilding about nutrition. And it was like completely opposite of what I thought I knew when I was taught in pharmacy school, right? So everything that I thought about, like, eating less and exercising more, and all of those things were wrong. So all the things I learned that worked for me to help me achieve the body that I wanted, I put in this guide. So when you go to dranh.com and you put in your name and email address, you can get all my lessons I learned from bodybuilding. And you'll get my newsletter, and you'll learn about my podcast and all of the information I share about food as medicine.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Ann, for taking the time to do this interview. I know so many women out there are probably just have this newfound confidence in themselves, or just have this new way of thinking about life. So I really appreciate you coming over. And to the listeners, just head on over to the taoofselfconfidence.com. Just search for Dr. Ann's name, so it's A-N-H, and her show notes will pop up along with everything else we talked about. And I want to thank Dr. Ann for sharing her journey with us. Dr. Ann, thank you again so much. Your story was really inspiring. I really love the part about your grandmother just telling you that you can do it. You know, there was no disbelief in her. She just believed in you so much. And sometimes you just need that one person who can believe in you, and sky's the limit. So yeah, I mean, I would love to have you back again if you have time again to just share some more awesome tips for our listeners here.
Yeah, anytime, Sheena. It was my pleasure, and thank you for having me on, and we can do it again anytime you like.
Sounds good. So tune in to the next episode, and we will catch you later. Bye for now.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of The Tao of Self-Confidence. Visit thetaoofselfconfidence.com for links to everything we chatted about today, as well as killer resources, gifts, and so much more. Subscribe to The Tao of Self-Confidence on iTunes or Stitcher to hear more stories of amazing women finding their inner journey to self-confidence.